So you went on from there, and then obviously you created several businesses, where you've done tens of millions of pounds, literally, Tell us a little bit about that journey. What was that like? Where did you make a lot of money? What was it like for you on that journey? Okay, hello and welcome, Metin, to the Serious About Success podcast. First of all, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. How are you today, Metin? You right?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Very grateful.
Good. Well, look, I'm very blessed and honoured to have somebody like yourself on the podcast, of which we're going to get into all sorts today. Starting mainly with, you have been a gladiator, yeah? So you used to be like, on the UK gladiators, back in the day, probably in the 90s, that sort of thing. You've
95, yeah.
1995, yeah? Okay, right. So you were a gladiator, and then you've gone from being a gladiator, you've been a serial entrepreneur, generating tens of millions of pounds,
Indeed,
obviously you've got quite a bit of a detailed story there.
Sure.
And now you're like more of like a spiritual life coach.
Yes.
So that's how obviously I know you, we've done a bit of coaching over time and stuff like that. And you've been absolutely, fantastic. In my life. So tell us a bit about your journey then, Metin, like how did it start? So you was a gladiator, on the UK gladiators, yeah? So tell me a little bit about that, and how that was for you.
Well, I was a gladiator shark. It began, I had a bodybuilding career. I came to the understand that I wanted to monopolize on my physique. Gladiators came up. I like a challenge. I did various sports as a young man. When the gladiators came around and there was an opportunity for me to join that, I obviously went for the tryouts and was taken on as a gladiator. It didn't work out for me because it didn't work for me for many reasons. I did do it for a while and I enjoyed the time I was doing it, but I wanted to do other things. I had aspirations to achieve much more than that. It was almost like the minute I got it, I didn't want it.
Okay. Yeah.
I wanted to achieve more. I didn't feel that it was helping me or would help other people enough. And my purpose was to grow as a person and help other people grow.
Yeah. Okay. So when you said you didn't think that it was going to help you achieve certain aspects of your life, what do you mean? Like, what else did you want to really manage?
It was more so of a physical challenge. Gladiators. It's something that you have to do physically. You have to have obviously the physique for it. And you have to compete with other contenders. The whole limelight around that was something that was very short-lived for me because I didn't see substance to it for me. I saw it was something I was going to be in and out of, and I thought that I gained as much as I could in the period that I was in. So I wanted to focus on other things. I wanted to create enough financial wealth to be stable in order to contribute back to others and also my own life. And I was never going to do that with gladiators.
Yeah, no, I get it. So you went on from there, and then obviously you created several businesses, where you've done tens of millions of pounds, literally, Tell us a little bit about that journey. What was that like? Where did you make a lot of money? What was it like for you on that journey?
Well, for me, it was kind of, I always wanted to be a pilot, and I came from a very deprived, poor background. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and they couldn't afford to give me the education and put me through flight school. So I learned to fly when I came out of gladiators. I learned to be a pilot and fly helicopters initially. And I realized there was a niche in the marketplace, I thought, for high net worth individuals to fly from point to point of their homes and around the UK and other parts of the world. And I thought, okay, so if I become a pilot, is it going to fulfill my own needs with regard to something I needed to relive and do within my own self? But was it going to contribute to others? And I quickly realized that it was going to allow me to focus and helicopter encounter and helicopter look down on the concepts of how properties are developed. Every Englishman's home is his castle. And I thought if a man could see his castle from the air, so I thought there could be a marketplace for helicopter news, good news stations, as opposed to bad news stations. And doing that, I started to discover bits of land that were undeveloped. I realized how many developments is a completely different world flying in it. So I acquired a pilot's license, and I used to fly around England looking around thinking, goodness me, there's so much that we can do here to build and develop. So I started at the time, I'd developed a couple of small properties, renovated them. And then I started developing properties and went on from small developments, sort of converting a house into 2 flats, into building one-off developments like detached houses. And then I went on to started building blocks of beautiful flats, not high-rise, not the projects where people were sort of contained in these small boxes, but luxury flats, and started building luxury flats and went on from there, really.
Yeah, all right. So you mentioned that, growing up for you was a little bit, like it was more of a deprived sort of upbringing. You didn't have a lot necessarily growing up. So tell us how you went then from, how did you, create the mindset? When did you discover the mindset to be able to go from where you grew up to then all of a sudden now, doing all this stuff in business where you're doing lots of property developments and stuff like that? That takes, a certain type of person. Where did that mindset develop?
Well, I didn't know who I was. I was a mixed race child. I had come from a Turkish father and an English mother. So I didn't know whether I was going to eat egg and bacon one day and be reprimanded for having the bacon the next. So I was kind of lost as who I was, but I knew I was different. I wasn't an academic. Even when I did my flight exams, when I did navigation, I had to go and restudy arithmetic in order to complete that exam in particular. So I knew there was something different about me, and I loved people. I loved watching people and developing, because I believe if you work with people and you grow wealth, and not just financial wealth, emotional wealth and abundance. My grandfather and my grandmother, both my grandfather on my English side and my grandmother on my Turkish side were spiritualists. And I thought, if I use my spiritual intuition to feel, because as we know, 80% of what we do with people is body language, sort of 17% is pitch and tone, and sort of a little bit, 3% or thereabouts is content of words. So I liked interacting with people. I liked the concept of people. So I realized that I was something different about me. So I used to lie in bed and try to invent something. I thought I'd invent the cat's eye, but I realized that was already invented.
Yeah.
So one thing led to another, and I started to be a saver rather than when all my friends were going on holidays and doing great things and having fun. I would just work and save every single penny to start my first business. Lots of people would say to me, "Oh, you're depriving yourself of a good time," but my good time would come later in my mind. So plant the seeds now, harvest a crop in some years to come. So I knew I was different. So I had the idea that I would create something of substance, because that which is unseen sustains that which is seen. So the foundations of something make something much better in the long term, because it's there for longevity. And I saw myself with longevity. I didn't actually know. And that's the beautiful thing, I think, about spirituality. And it's a great thing about being an entrepreneur is you never know what you're going to enjoy doing. I was a complete anorak with many subjects. I learned about many things. I was a complete fanatic about learning about something. So if I wanted to know about cameras, and I'd really learn about cameras. If I wanted to learn about another subject, whatever it may be, fishing, perhaps, I'd really learn about fishing. And I'd know, the weights and measures and the pulling power of the rod. And I was a bit of an anorak with that. So I knew that I worked on detail, because if you work on the detail, always look on the, I always thought, always look on the downside, and the upside will take care of itself. And the upside for me was, I know I've got something, I don't know what it is, but if I keep chipping away, there'll be a breakthrough somewhere, and something will happen and something will change for me. And then I got involved with a turnaround management company, and they asked me to lecture for them. And I stood in front of an audience and in turnaround management, and just talking about people skills, about life skills, and what I said about the 80% body language, pitch and tone, and obviously the content of word. Found people responded, and I found myself enjoying seeing people want to grow and interact. And I quickly realised that most people have great aspirations to do great things. So I found I would feed off them, and they would feed off me, and I developed from there, really.
Yeah, all right, cool. So didn't you ever have anyone, like any mentors or anything like that? When you started, the property developments and being in that world, did you have any mentors, anyone in particular to kind of show you the way, or was you literally led just by intuition?
Totally led by intuition. But in 2007, I was sort of working 15 hours a day. I wasn't being kind to myself. and I had a terrible illness. I had some ulcers in my stomach that subsequently burst, and I was taken into hospital for many months. Then I subsequently had a coronary heart attack. I had a near-death experience, and I thought I'd write a book, which I did when I came through that. And I realised that there's something more to life than having a mentor. It's feeling your own intuition and connecting with someone. So I started to read books of people like Zig Ziglar, Anthony Robbins, and I started to read philosophy. And then I thought, okay, they're great business skills, but they're not really what I need. I probably read hundreds and hundreds of books in the next 10 years after that. And I realized that that's all good and well. Successful people leave clues. I'm no genius. I do have my twist on things, and I do use my spiritual intuition, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be unique. I thought if I tried to copy and replicate someone, it wouldn't be me, and it would be perceived as false or fraudulent. And that's not what I was about. So I had to find within my own autonomy what I needed to do in order to achieve the success and the goals that I wanted in my life. And I found like-minded people, and the majority of people all want to get on. See, everyone wants you to do well, but not as well as them, unless they trust you. And people started to trust me with what I said, because it wasn't trust from, you see, like apologies without change behavior are kind of abusive, really. So I wanted to work on the concept of being honest with people, and I believe a good friend and a good mentor and a good guide is someone that doesn't have to say sorry. That doesn't mean do something to say sorry. It means don't do anything in the first place. So I was very cautious about what I said, what I did. And I realized that working with people, great people achieve great results. TEAM, together everyone achieves more. And I found I need people in my life, and people found that they needed me. Yeah. And it was very inspirational and beautiful.
So you think surrounding yourself with the right type of people?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's something I speak a lot about, in our program, in terms of making sure that you surround yourself with the right people is my number one tip to really help you to achieve the sort of success that you want to achieve, because we're all influenced by others. Would you agree with that? We're influenced by others,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, you have to be compassionate. You have to have genuine empathy with people. But if and you try to help people, but I usually I have an amber light on people's heads, green, amber, red. And it's three strikes and you're out. I know you're negative. I know you, unless they have obviously a serious issue, then I'll buddy them as long as I can. But it's almost like if you're going to be, the people that say the problem we've got, the problem you're going to have. Well, the more, it's heterosuggestion, and it goes back to this NLP, this neuro-linguistic programming. The more you get, it will pollute your process of your creative juices flowing. So you have to be very careful. So I will spend time with people, but I will only surround myself with positive people that want to develop and grow. All people are perfectly imperfect, but we try to be as perfect as we can each and every day. Practice makes permanent, not perfect.
Yeah, no, I get you. So in the height of your career, you're working 15 hours a day, you're working really hard, you've got all these developments going on. I know you've done loads of other things from an entrepreneurial point of view. Give us an idea. What was your net worth? In your height and the height of where you've been, what was your net worth at the time?
Millions and millions. I had a great life. I really did. I had a lot of money. I believe that, money is the byproduct of success. And the problem that I had, and one of the things I work with people now is I was never, they say the first generation make the money, the second generation spend the money, and the third generation lose the money. Well, I never came from money. So when I got money, I just thought it was like sweet. I was like a child in a sweet shop. So I'd buy my friends extravagant things. I would spend money. I didn't understand unit income forecast or cash flow or anything like that. I just thought, just enjoy. And we know money's very, very, very hard to come, but very easy to go. So all the millions of pounds that I was worth with regard to the businesses that I had and created, it went out faster than it came. And when I was very, very unwell, it took me time to realize that I had to go back to the concept of look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. And it made me realize that all the money in the world without people is nothing. So I realized the real value that I had were people, not the actual pound notes in the bank or the properties that I owned or anything to do with the concepts of the business that I was controlling or running. It was all about people, and it was about making sure that I had to look after people and look after myself.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Don't worry, we've got lots more content left to come. This is just a quick word from me. Now, you will hear us speak a lot about things like mentorship, as well as that, surrounding yourself with the right people. Now, one of the other things, if you really want to achieve the financial success, what makes it helpful is to have things like accountability. This can be the difference between you making it and you really not really quite getting there. Now, if you're at the start of your journey, you want to maybe leave your 9-to-5 day job, or you're just in the process of starting up a business, I would like you to come and check out our website, www.seriousaboutsuccess.com. Over the years, we have coached thousands of people all around the world. We speak on BBC Radio as their go-to guy for anything related to mentorship. It's very important for you to have that helping hand along the way. So come and check out our website, sign up for our free training, and we'll show you exactly what it takes for you to succeed. Now back to the podcast.
Okay, right. So you're a very spiritual guy, and, you've been able to accumulate, all of this wealth, which is great. I mean, do you believe that, you was just utilizing the right energy? Like, was there anything conscious of what you was doing at that time? No doubt we've all heard of things like the law of attraction. We've all read The Secret, by Rhonda Byrne and all that sort of stuff. Was you just in the right energy state to attract all of that wealth? What do you think?
I think we're all born amoral. And then we go into the pleaser state, don't we? Mm. And then we go into the authoritative state. And if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you look at those things. So I knew nothing of those things. There are two kinds of people. There are three kinds of people: those that watch it happen, those that make it happen, and those that say what happened. Just being a what happened, want to make it happen person is enough for anybody. People are unique creatures. We really are. And for me, it wasn't about a conscious thought. I didn't want massive material things. I wanted to drive a nice car as a little boy. I would like a nice sports car. And from that, the manifestation works. And I think the intuitive side of what happens inside us can either be developed or quashed. So during the duration of my life, it was quashed. My father was very suppressive. You will never achieve that. Now, some people fight back from that and say, well, I can do that. You see, if I acquire a small boat here now, a plastic boat or fiberglass boat of maybe 12 inches big, and I've got one sitting in Saint-Tropez, they're no different. They're both plastic boats. One we can look at in our lounge, and one we can actually go on and go around a Caribbean cruise. So the perception of the universe can't identify, what's small and what's big, what's real and what isn't. We can make that happen for our intuitive thoughts and our belief systems within ourselves. Now, lots of time within my life, I was told, as I said, that I wasn't good enough, wasn't capable. You're too stupid to be a pilot, I was told as a child. You'll never have that ability to do that because you don't have the brain for that. And I thought, well, hold on a minute. If that's the case, then I'll have to achieve something else. You see, if the brain doesn't have an answer, it makes one up. And what I didn't realize is there's the conscious mind, the reptilian brain, and then and we know about the cortex and we know about the front lobes of the brain, and we understand the concept of how the brains fuse together. My brain, I believe, was fused together in some ways by some sort of trauma. And I think that trauma helped me fight back. We know, we talk about some people within the FBI. They talk about if they're going to employ someone, they'd like someone that suffered trauma as a child as opposed to someone that hasn't. Because I think there were things going on in me that drove me intuitively to physically have those things and strive and drive for goals, because it's all about goals, isn't it? As a child, we want a certain toy. We set the picture in our mind. We look at it in the toy shop. See, I was told as a child, you have money, you don't, you look. If you have money, you don't look. Well, that's quashing my dreams. Now, if we can dare to dream, the intuitive part of our body starts to flow, and the natural the luscious juices of desire start to bubble. So even if we're not achieving it right now physically, and the universe works in time delay, it doesn't give you what you want immediately, but over a period of time, things start to happen. You might meet the right people. You might pick up the right book. You might fall over and bang your knee and have to go into a hospital and realize that something else is wrong with you above your knee. So if you're doing the right thing, and it's all about honesty and truth. You know, when people say, look, I'm trying to find the right people. Okay. Well, try and find the right person within yourself, and your intuitive juices will flow. And a lot of your questions are very important. And I think the most important thing about your question is sometimes life is like pushing string. If you, I can't do it, I can do it, I'm trying so hard. Sometimes you have to just let things evolve, let things mature, like a fine wine that's maturing. You just have to let it be a little bit, step back and watch. And you have to have a measurement tool. And it goes back to what you were saying, the measurement tool of surrounding yourself with the right people. Because if you surround yourself with the wrong people, that will never develop. So you have to have positive people around you. They don't have to be super positive, but they've got to have some desire to do better and achieve great things.
All right, perfect. So let's just say, for example, if you're coaching people now, if somebody comes to you and says, right, Metin, I want to have a similar level of success of what you had. I want to be making millions and millions of pounds, as quickly as possible. What would you tell them?
I would tell them that there are some fundamentals. There must be integrity to begin with. You must be doing it for the right reason. Nothing comes to anyone unless there's some contribution. Goes back to, as I said earlier, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What are we contributing to ourselves and others? We are very lucky to be here. Of the 7 billion, I think, and I don't know the exact number, but there's 7 billion on this planet. Think about the hundreds and billions of trillions of people that never made it, the embryos that faded away, the miscarriages. We got through. We're actually here. We're the winners. We're the lottery winners. So we were given a set time to live on this earth. Now, none of us know exactly what that time is going to be. But what I'd say to someone is, during the duration of that time, how much time have you got to commit to focusing on what you'd like to achieve with regard to what's important in your life? See, some people say, well, I just want to find a decent husband or a decent wife, and that will be enough for me. Well, if they're so focused on success, they might be so self-absorbed on focusing on success, they might not find the love of their life. So I'd say to them, that's the first thing I say to them, what if you prioritize what's important to you for this short period that we're on this earth in your time frame, what do you want? That's the first thing I'd say. If they said to me, look, I've got a great husband or a great wife, and I've got a family, and I want to commit 10 hours a day to this, I'd say to them, okay, well, what can we do? What ingredients do we need to add to your life in order to feel comfortable? Because if you love what you do, you'll never do another day's work in your life again. So it has to be like effortless rhythm. Business and finances, if you talk to all the entrepreneurs, most of the entrepreneurs, I don't say all, but most of them, they'll tell you, the successful ones and some of the top people on this earth, they'll tell you that you have to work in areas where you're feeling good about doing something. Because if you're not feeling good about it, it's like asking someone to do a job that they don't. There's obviously delegation, there's abdication. People if you ask someone to do a job they don't want to do, they will not do it well, no matter what they do, because they don't enjoy doing it. So I dig deep into the person initially to find out what is your real love. And then we start growing from there. And from there, great things will grow.
All right, perfect. So do you think everything happens for a reason?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Now, I agree because, things in my life, even though there's been times where things have been a challenge, you kind of look to see, well, how I've grown as a result of those challenges, of which when I now look at some of the things of what I'm doing, it's like, well, look, I couldn't be doing those things if it wasn't for the challenges of what I went through. So you've had some challenges. I mean, like you mentioned earlier on, at one stage, you got really ill at one point. What do you think was happening there? I mean, what was the universe trying to teach you, and what have you, grown out of that?
Well, I was given a second chance. I think what the universe was saying to me, and what the journey of my life was about was, hold on a minute, you've achieved great success financially, but have you stayed being a nice person? Are you considerate and caring of others' needs? Are you contributing back? Are you really doing it now? And I lost myself. I completely became self-indulged. Not so much where I was unkind knowingly. I was unknowingly unkind because I couldn't spend time with my family and couldn't give to my loved ones anything because I was so self-indulged and so self-absorbed in more. I didn't know when to stop. So the universe gave me another chance. There's two ways to stop you. They can slow you down by giving you an illness and give you time to think about what you're doing with your life and then let you have another lease of life again, or they can stop you on your tracks and put you into the next life. I was lucky. I think that was the big life lesson for me. Enough now. How much? And it sort of changed my prerogative. There's a wonderful book I read at that time. It was called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I think you've read it. Yeah. We discussed it. Mm-hmm. And it's about what is important. Is material wealth means nothing, but money isn't a dirty word. And I got lost in the concept at one time. Said, right, I don't want anything. I'll just live in a small box. And I'll eat basic food and I'll get the bus or walk or have a small car. But then I realized that wasn't me really, because it wasn't allowing me to contribute to my own self-esteem. Now, in order to give back, you have to feel good about yourself. It's a fine line, isn't it? Life. And it's a fine line about, in order to contribute to others, you have to feel good about yourself. And I drove myself into this state of being, I would almost be that monk and not have any material things. But then I realized that really wasn't for me, because I really couldn't give much. And I enjoy giving. Life is about giving. It's not about receiving. But it's very hard. And I had to say to loved ones and people that I knew, hold on a minute, I've got to grow myself. And they said, well, are you becoming selfish? Because I might have wanted to go and buy a new suit or a new T-shirt. And they say, well, we need to buy this. I say, well, if I feel good about myself, then I can get what I want. And if I get what I want, then I'll get you what you want. So it's a reciprocity. It's a thing of backwards and forwards. So I think that was the lesson for me. Be careful with life. Be careful. Don't take it for granted. You've got to be careful
what you wish for. That's one of the things of what I've
absolutely
learned. Because, no doubt there's people watching this podcast right now. It's like, yeah, but I just want to make all this money. I want to do this. I want to do that. You've got to be careful what you wish for, because you don't know what lessons you've got to learn in order for you to now elevate yourself to the next level, right?
Absolutely.
And that could be something, that you're not even expecting. It really can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key thing is this, what I didn't know. I mean, a dear friend of mine who's a high flyer, he's lonely at the top financially, but it doesn't have to be. He said to me, how much is enough? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, if you sold everything today, you could live in the Bahamas for the rest of your life. How much is enough? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know. How much is enough? You see, we continue driving ourselves forward and we lose sight of the end goal. And what is the end goal? You see, when I eat something now, I will not say, that was quite nice. I will say to myself, And if I spend time with someone, I walk out and say, and I have a whoopee every day. And my whoopee is, wow, yeah, that's what made the day worthwhile. And the most important thing is this, that I became complicit, I think, and complacent in realizing that when you're doing well in life, don't take it for granted, because what goes up must come down. We need some highs to give us inspiration, but the lows to keep us humble. But we can crash and burn if we're not careful. So we have to be very careful. Don't start getting how I did. I was completely, I was driving a very expensive car once, quite fast down the road, not breaking the speed limit, but quite fast. And a friend of mine saw me a couple of days after and he said, I saw you whiz past me. He said, why are you going so fast in that car? And I said, I don't know. He said, I said, why? Do I need to slow down? He said, yeah, of course. Well, no one will see you unless you're going slow. And I said, that's not why I do what I do. I don't want people to see me. I need to find my own inner self. And getting from A to B, I got lost. Have you ever driven somewhere and thought, which way did I come? So much going on in the mind. So I had to slow my mind down, sort of that concept, and say, I'm going to think about every journey. And I do now. We talk about Stephen Covey, another book that I read, of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But I went on to the 8th habit he wrote as well. But I went on to the concept of trying to understand what is important for me? Everyone else is watching me. See, I believe that what people perceive me to be is completely different from what I see of myself. Even regard to the aesthetics of how I look, I may see myself. It's like a young lady. She's going to meet her boyfriend for the first time, a potential boyfriend, and she's extremely beautiful. Everyone's beautiful within their own right, but this lady is particularly beautiful. And the day before, she gets a great big spot on her face. She's going to spend the whole meeting with this boy and the time before worrying about going to meet him with a spot on her face. Do you think he's worried about the spot?
Probably not. Definitely not.
But she's convinced herself the spot's going to interact with our meeting and so she will transmit energy during that meeting, and she probably won't come over as her true authentic self. So we have to understand that we must work on the detail, but on a positive, not on a negative.
I get it. So do you think, certain people that you might see on Instagram or just around social media or just, all over, their ego, you're talking about, maybe slowing things down for yourself, appreciating it, not letting it go, to your head too much. So can you see that? I mean, one of the things of what, you see a lot around social media is, all this, you've got to have this watch, you've got to have this thing, you've got to have this car, you've got to be going these places, and it can come across like just pretty much ego. And one of my kind of things of what things are areas of where I'm developing. I mean, because we've all been in that same situation. So yeah, look at me,
Sure.
look what I've got. Yeah, check this out. But one of the realizations of what I'm really kind of coming to see is that, well, that doesn't really make who I am, really. That doesn't really identify the sort of person that I really want to be, just because you might have a nice watch, just because you got a nice car. But what do you think,
That's your journey. You've evolved along the road to arrive at where everyone has their own battles. Everyone has their own agenda. Everyone's beautiful within their own right. And it may come across as ego, but they've got the courage to get on and do it and say it. So if it's fueling them to give them what they need, they may not be as far down the journey of the road of their life in order to be where you're at. So if we judge them on that concept, then we're being judgmental. How do we know that they might want the watch and they might be doing that with regard to social media and talking that big stuff and being chauvinistic perhaps, or being a misogynist? But how do we know that they are in a different place to we are? They will come into that and out of that into a place perhaps where you're thinking, or perhaps where I'm thinking. It's just everyone's got their journey. And if we look at everyone as if they're on their journey, we can't judge them because we don't know where they are. How do we know what they've been through with regard to their past? How do we know what trauma they've been through? How do we know that they may not have had a fantastic silver spoon upbringing and they're acting like that and they're heading for a big fall and they're going to suffer some real traumas and pains in their life ahead? So let's give them a little slack and say, well, just okay, let's love you in that way and let's try and support you and guide you from behind. It's like a horse. When a horse wants to jump over a fence, it pulls its head to the left, but the rider has to pull the head to the right, and it pulls its head to the right, and it holds the head straight and jumps over. If we can support people by not being judgmental and not saying just because it's not how we perceive things, we don't know what they're going to endure or potentially or possibly have endured. And if we look at it like that, it puts a whole new light on someone. It makes us love everybody.
Yeah,
everybody.
I agree. Well, look, you've got some great words of wisdom. You really genuinely have. Give us a bit of an idea. In terms of if you want to feel completely fulfilled. Yeah. So, say for example, I mean, you might have experienced this in your life where you might be generating a lot of money. And I've got some friends. In fact, I was talking to somebody earlier about this. That you might make a lot of money, but then you still feel somewhat unfulfilled. Yeah. Give us an idea just from your perspective. How do you really, achieve that ultimate fulfillment in life? How do you find your true purpose? Like, if that exists, how do you find that true purpose and, feel a lot more content within yourself?
Well, life, I believe it is a continuing evolution of change. So what we found fulfilling yesterday is not fulfilling today. When you got your first car, it wasn't perhaps the same car that you have now. but you felt the same about it because you got your driving license and you were actually on the move. Yeah. So at the time, it gave you that feeling. When you got that car, it could have been an old banger. Mine was. And when I walked away from it, I'd look back and I'd look out the window and I'd come in and say, to my parents or who I was with at the time, I can't remember, I'm going out for another drive, and just waste petrol going for it, because I wanted to be. Within a week or 2 weeks, I wasn't looking back at the car. I was shutting the door, locking it, going into where I was going. So we have this constant change within us, that what we desire now is not what we'll desire tomorrow. And it's forever changing, and it will continue to change. So we have to live within the moment, and contentment is living in the moment, not living in the past, because that's our memory. The future is our imagination, is savoring the moment on the realization that we are going to change somewhere down the line. And what fulfilled us yesterday or today may not fulfill us tomorrow. We may reintroduce some things back, adapted into the future. Some people love certain things, and they bring those things back around in their life as you evolve. So I wouldn't think there's one particular thing that drives a person as such.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Don't worry, we've got lots more content left to come. This is just a quick word from me. Now, you will hear us speak a lot about things like mentorship, as well as that, surrounding yourself with the right people. Now, one of the other things, if you really want to achieve the financial success, what makes it helpful is to have things like accountability. This can be the difference between you making it and you really not really quite getting there. Now, if you're at the start of your journey, you want to maybe leave your 9-to-5 day job, or you're just in the process of starting up a business, I would like you to come and check out our website, www.seriousaboutssuccess.com. Over the years, we have coached thousands of people all around the world. We speak on BBC Radio as their go-to guy for anything related to mentorship. It's very important for you to have that helping hand along the way. So come and check out our website, sign up for our free training, and we'll show you exactly what it takes for you to succeed. Now back to the podcast.
So spirituality then, what does that really mean to you? Because no doubt there's going to be some people that watch this type of stuff and it's like, oh, all that spirituality stuff is a bit woo-woo. Yeah, it's like, oh, it's going above my head. I don't really get it. What does spirituality really mean to you?
Spirituality for me, I'm not religious as such. So I have this understanding that when you don't know what to do, do nothing. And when you don't know what to say nothing until you know what to do and you know what to say. We're all born and developed as small babies and children with the voice too in our head. Shall I go to the shop? Shan't I? Should I do this? Shouldn't I? Oh, I won't touch that. It's hot. And we're constantly having the chatter in our mind. Now, what happens is the more trauma and the more we get obsessed with something, the more the chatter goes on in our head. And that clouds and suppresses the question with regard to what do you think spirituality is. Spirituality for me, and lots of the people I share time with, is about realizing that there are things way above and beyond our control. We know as human beings, our bodies, our minds, and our souls need to be looked after. But what we don't look after is that inner voice that gets suppressed deep down inside us by the chatter and the noise within our voice too, the banter that we have with people every day, the desires to achieve our goals and our aspirations to achieve our dreams. Therefore, we don't go on our intuitive self. Spirituality can be whatever you want it to be. Do you feel good when you see a sunrise and a sunset? We don't know why, do we? Going back to the concept of being committed to unconscious competence rather than cognitive understanding. We don't need to know how the electricity gets to the switch. We don't need the dynamics of how it works within the concept of the science of that. We just we just need the unconscious competence. We just want to flick the switch. So spirituality for everybody, as far as I'm concerned, is what it means to them. Spirituality may be seeing a sunset. Spirituality might be going to the office every day and having the first cup of coffee. And you have to allow it to evolve and flow and learn to silence your mind. there's this big talk about now of meditation that's so important, about clearing the mind. And we clear everything else, but we know as we sleep, our brain goes through a washing process, ready for the next day. But we know the more engulfed we are with the journey of our life and our day-to-day dealings, sometimes we don't sleep. So it rolls over to the next day and the next day. So there are little mantras and little procedures. So spirituality could be learning the mantras and the procedures in order to find enough rest to replenish and develop ourselves to allow that inner voice to come through.
Yeah, I understand. Now, one of the things of what my experiences, okay, of what I went through to, get to the point of where obviously, me and you've met and, we've done some stuff and all the rest of it, is I went through a process of understanding more about what I felt about society, and, the everyday control of what goes on within our society, even down to money, paid taxes, work, distraction, external programming, and I went through a whole process of really kind of seeing it, seeing all the distractions out there. And it's like seeing, no, you should be believing this, you should be believing that, well, hang on a minute, we've got this religion, we've got that religion, there's conflict here, there's got Christianity, we've got Islam, we've got but there's conflict and this person believes this and that's just a load of noise, just a load of noise. So when I then started really seeing that in a huge way, and the Matrix film was massive for me as well, it really was, right? It still is, It was like, well, what's beyond the Matrix? What's beyond the everyday noise and conspiracy of what I can see going on in front of me? What's beyond that? And that's what led me to start questioning what's really this universe really all about? What's really going on? What's your thoughts about stuff like that?
As we know, we're all atoms, molecules, and your own universe is you, Jay. And I think people don't realize that. They see themselves, the universe and them separate. Whereas if you see yourself, because you've heard the saying, some people revolve around the world and some people think the world revolves around them. And some people say that's self-centered. But as I said, we must always adjust ourselves to understand and put ourselves in someone else's shoes. Spirituality and what's beyond for me is how you perceive yourself to be and the contribution you make to yourself and the people in your life and the hearts and the minds that you touch. You see, the hardest thing to do for most people, because of this word ego that you used earlier, is to have someone around them that is superior to them. You see, because everyone needs to feel good about themselves. So it's a fine line. You see, that what I will do is I will not stay too long in an environment or with a person or people that do not emulate me. I only want to be around people that are better than me in many ways, and whatever those ways may be, because I'm not going to learn, because every time I speak, I'm only repeating what I know. But every time I listen, I'm learning perhaps something new. And even if it's one thing, you see, you have the wisdom to understand that humility is about saying that we are all here. There's you and I are exactly the same. We have skin and bone. We've got a period of time that we're on this earth. But is the ego stopping us, putting ourselves in an environment where we accept that the universe may be within us and the universe may be in the person that's in front of us in order to connect and learn something new in order to make a better place? What I know I've seen from my children, they are far superior and advanced than I was when I was a boy. I mean, I used to ride my bicycle. I'd know it was time to go home, and I only had one bicycle as a child, and it was a second-hand old granny's bike. So I was lucky to have it. At the time, I wasn't grateful for it. I was really, but I complained about it, which was a mistake. But I knew to come home when the street lights came on. If you look at the children of today, how advanced they are, the way their brains work. If you and I, well, maybe not you, but I can talk for myself. If I was a child at the same age as one of my children today, they'd look at me like I was a dunce because of the evolution of change. So spirituality is not something that we look at separate from ourselves. Spirituality is a part of us. Like even when we pass, we are all energy. It's all energy. Just the body stops moving, but the energy lives on, doesn't it? There was this Cochlean photography when they would actually photograph someone with a limb missing 10 years later, but the photography would still show the outline as if the arm's still there. So the energy lives on. That's when we talk about auras and that sort of thing. So spirituality is not something it should never be an imposition. It never should be imposed or pushed on anyone. People will evolve. We know from statistics and facts that everybody, just before they pass, everybody, even if they're a complete non-believer of spirituality and life after death, just before they pass, they'll have a wake-up moment. If you check the science on it, they'll be full of beans and everyone say, oh, this person's not going to die. And then they'll say, oh, I saw my moggy cat, or Uncle Albert turned up this afternoon. So everyone connects at some time. Fortunately, I connected early with realizing there are things that are unknown. It's a bit deep, that question, Jay.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, this is where I want to go.
It's a deep question, mate. I could talk to you for 6 hours on that.
Yeah. Well, I know. Well, this is it. Well, this is where I want to take it. You know. So, give us then your top tips on manifestation. You know, if I want to manifest an abundant life, you know, from a spiritual perspective, you're a very spiritual guy. What are your top tips around manifestation? Okay.
The first thing I think everyone must do is, we talk about this autonomy and love yourself. It's gone a bit too far because people have become selfish with self-love. Self-love is wonderful, but if it's not regulated, if it's not measured, and if it's not looked at by someone else and there's no feedback with it, you can lose yourself with that. So if you're going to find manifestation is first feeling good about yourself, but you need someone to measure that upon, to look at you and say, well, you're going a little bit too far there, or you're being a little bit too self-centered there. So that's the first thing. You have to find your inner center and say, I have to feel comfortable with myself. None of us are ever going to be completely comfortable unless we say, well, listen, this is the vehicle that carries me. Yeah, my nose is a bit big and a bit, I am what I am. So once we come to terms with who we are, that's the first part, because we must begin with the basics, reinforce the basics and go back to basics. And the first part of the basics is understanding that we are in control of the manifestation, no one else. So that's the first part. Then we will attract the right people to us. Just how you and I met. I was working, wasn't I? You came along and said, hey, I'd like to work with you, and next minute you and I are doing things together. Mm-hmm. There are no accidents, there are no coincidences. I believe in synchronicity, and all things are given to us as blessings to learn from. So manifestation is about not pushing too hard, by saying, I know what I want in my mind's eye, just focus on the big picture and allow the detail to unfold. It's not going to come all in one hit. It's not all going to come at one time. It's going to take some time, but you've got to be patient. And patience is a virtue, as they say, and it's something we've got to adjust to, adapt to, and allow it to unfold. Because if just keep your eye on the end goal, it's like bird dogging, isn't it? You see that hunter. I don't agree with killing anything, but you see the hunter shoot the bird. But if you watch the dog, he doesn't take his eye. He won't look at the hunter. He'll keep his eye on the bird. He will not take his eye off that bird, and then he will go and get it and bring it to the hunter. And if we use the bird dogging concept and method, everything else will work itself out. There'll be delays, there'll be distractions, but if we keep our eye on the end picture, that's it in a nutshell. It's very simple. Lots of people make things very complicated. You need this, you need that. So that's the second thing. The third thing is to make sure that you are sitting and talking with like-minded people. If you spend your time talking with people that are not like-minded, I've got no dreams, I've got no aspirations, I've got no goals, I don't really care what happens in my life. Well, you're just going to waste your time, because we have an emotional bank account, and we all have one, and you can either deposit or withdraw from that emotional bank account. It's important to understand that the emotional bank account is never going to be full. So it empties every day. We wake up, cortisol rises in the morning, which creates inflammation. So we've got to fight that as a human. We've got to make sure our teeth are clean, our bodies are clean. We've got to make sure our food. So the next thing is about mantras and routines. We must have a consistent routine, because without consistency, we'll never finish and get to the result. So consistency is the next thing. And the last thing that I think is so important is you must have belief in yourself, even when you don't believe in yourself. because anything is possible in life for anybody. I believe everyone is beautiful and everyone has talent in their own way. Everybody. But it's some people, bless them, never find that talent because they don't allow themselves to step back and be vulnerable. We know the most successful people in this life are very insecure because it's the insecurities that keep us fighting and moving forward and make us want to achieve great things. If we're all cocky, it's like fear. Fear is a beautiful thing because fear will give us drive. Aggression is a beautiful thing. As long as it doesn't turn into violence, it's a beautiful thing because aggression gives us energy. And if it's channeled in the right ways, it will give us what we want. So I think those elements create the concept. It's quite simple. If you just write them down in ballpark 5-6 points and just say, I'm going to focus on those and let the universe do its work.
Yeah, I get it. Is the human experience, we hear this a lot. I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Yeah, I just want to be happy. Is the human experience about happiness?
What's happy for one person is not happy for another. If we read the book The Alchemist, a fable, one of the most successful books of all time, Paulo Coelho. He talks about a man called Santiago that wants to be an alchemist. He wants to turn everything he touches metal into gold. He spends a very expensive journey going around the world in order to find a love, because that's the main ingredient of what he wants to achieve. When he gets home, he finds his love was in the village that he came from. So could he dismiss and say, well, I was stupid. I shouldn't have gone on that journey because I just looked round the corner. My love was here. No, he needed to go on that journey to complete the understanding and evolve into the person in order to receive that love. Because if we receive people at the wrong time, there's a mismatch. We have to have certain paths, certain journeys, certain traits in order to connect. Perhaps you and I think you and I were connected when we were kids. We'd have been good mates. I think,
no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, I think that. But other people may not have been like that, So what we need to do is when we work with people and we share time with people, is find what the connections are. And even if our connections are not their connections, let's help them connect with a connection that is their connection. So we connect the right people with the right people, bring them together, and then they all sing from the same hymn sheet, to coin the pun.
Yeah, okay. What about things like karma? And what I mean by that is, regardless whether or not people are spiritual or not, everyone refers to karma. Oh, yes, their karma, it's their karma, it's their karma. Now, what you see sometimes is that people that are not very nice, people that are bad people, they still
achieve great things.
Yeah.
But I can tell you something. You can't change the fabric of reality. Okay. So whatever you've done in your life, you do things knowingly and unknowingly. If you do something bad or something wrong and you think you've got away with it, you haven't. Because eventually the universe, so if someone does something and you look back and say, well, I never did anything. Why has this happened to me? And you say, but okay, well, no, I'm a good person. You may be now. But what did you do 2 years ago? I did this. Okay. And what did you do 2 years before? What did you do 10 years ago? Oh, that's what you did. See, reality snaps back and gives you what it needs just because they look like they're having great. See, the circle of life means born, child, adolescence, young adulthood, middle age, old age, thereabouts, illness and passing. Dis-ease comes from the word disease, dis-ease. The circle of life, everyone thinks they're going to go around. My grandfather went the circle of life, never, ever, ever visiting a doctor, not once in his life. He wasn't squeaky clean, but I never saw that's what he'd tell me. But the stories and what I knew of this man, he never put a foot wrong. And one day closed his eyes and went to sleep. He had a very, very, very beautiful life. So I think the concept of karma comes back to everyone. Just because you're not seeing it in real time right now doesn't mean to say that it's not coming in the future. Everyone gets their comeuppance, everybody. And I've never in the history of my life and my journey on this earth seen everyone get away with everything. Something happens somewhere along the line. But it also works conversely in the right way as well. You see, if you do good things, sometimes if you get to that state where you're a bad person, you're achieving great wealth and it looks like you've got a great family, something can happen and you can change. So you've got bad karma coming from you. You can resolve it and rectify it by doing good things and come out the other end. So it looks like You've always continued the journey of your life doing the right thing, but you perhaps never in the beginning, in the first segment, you got to that segment when you're unkind, but you resolved it there and you just carried on.
Okay, right. We're nearing the end of the podcast, and look, you've been absolutely brilliant. You know, you're giving some real clear insight from a different perspective. You know, a lot of people that we have on the podcast are just coming from a perspective of, look, I've got a mentor, the right people, you know, creating the right type of mindset and stuff like that. You know, but very rarely does anyone really touch on some of the things of what you've been touching on. So, you know, I really do appreciate, you know, your wisdom and all of that sort of stuff that you're bringing to the podcast today. You know, very much appreciate it. So just give us a bit of an idea in terms of what are people doing at the moment to push their success away? You know, from a mindset, from a manifestation point of view, what are they doing to push it away? You know, because so many people are in a situation where they're not happy. You know, they want so much more. You know, they're not, you know, they're not getting the things show up in the way that they're really hoping to. They read the secret. They might even be very, you know, religious. They might pray. They might do whatever, but they're still repelling what they really want in their world. What do you think that's all about?
I think people try and put too much expectation on themselves. I think they want to achieve great things, and they don't step back and say, hold on a minute, I'm putting too much pressure on myself here. Rather than, but we mustn't stop. You know, they say a rolling stone gathers no moss, so we've got to keep moving. So it's like, you know, life is about the marathon, it's not the sprint. So don't give yourself a time frame to say, I want to achieve this in this amount of time, so I've got to do this. And they push themselves too hard, and their expectations. And sometimes you have to take one step back to take two steps forward. But people beat themselves up. You see, people critique themselves. We're constantly, as human beings, critiquing ourselves and analysing and questioning, or someone else does that. And together with that, we've got all our upbringing traits. You see, you are a product of your mother, your father, and your grandparents. Your partner will be a product of perhaps their mother, father, and parents. Now, you've got to find a common ground where you can both get on from two different dynamics. The dynamic of those dynamics transitions out into everyone we meet. So we're projecting all the time onto people what we think. You know, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason, to do more listening. We have receptors in our body. We know about oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And what we do is we don't focus on these things enough to say, when something's not going the way we want, then just coast until we know what to do. As I said before, when we don't know what to do nothing. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. That, yes, it's about the marathon. Yes, we don't know how much time we've got. But everyone has potential for greatness. You see, good and great is about 12 inches. Great and excellent, from great to excellent, is another 12 inches. Good, great, excellent. From excellent to outstanding is only another half an inch.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Mm. So what we do is we can't see. Things become easier when we don't put as much pressure on ourselves and don't try to achieve more. And again, it goes back to, if you give someone a job, and it translates back to what I said earlier, if you give someone a job that they don't like doing, then they're not going to do it well. But people do that to themselves. They give themselves jobs and tasks that they don't really enjoy doing. Just do what you love. Yeah. And that's the essence of life, whatever that may be. At any time, in any situation, don't do anything you don't love doing, because you won't get results from it. And spend time with like-minded people, and preferably, as I try to do. And don't get me wrong when I said earlier that I always want to be around people that are far superior, if not superior than me. That doesn't mean to say I'm rude or arrogant. I won't spend time with other people that I do, and I can't measure myself as be superior to them. That would be quite arrogance, blowing smoke up my own backside. But what I have to realize is everyone has a window of time that I will give them. If that window of time that I give them is draining me, I'll say, well, I've still spent some time with you, but I need to move on, because if I deplete myself, then I won't be productive for my own journey.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. Metin, that is absolutely brilliant. You know, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries, no worries.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. Look, where can people find you online?
You can find me. Well, on Metin Medium,
Mm-hmm.
on TikTok, on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not really computer proficient, should you say, but I am on there with certain stuff that I've shared, and you can Google me, Gladiator Shark, as well, and you can find my book, The Medium. That's what the book's called Why Me, and it's actually The Medium is my my pen name.
All right, perfect. So Metin Medium. Metin, thank you very much, my man.
Thank you, brother.
I do very much appreciate it. And look, no doubt we'll get you back on the podcast some other time.
It'd be my pleasure, absolutely.
It'd be good to have you back on. Again, just coming with a different perspective, which is all good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thank you.